Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Box of the Technical Trader. Wednesday, February the 22nd, 2012. That's 2222012. Anyway, the charts of the day, and I wanted to go over about 15 stocks or so that look real intriguing or had important breakouts today. And I don't think it's yet time to look at the shorts, but we may very well get a rollover starting tomorrow. If we do, we'll examine the shorts tomorrow night. But starting off with HSTM. An impressive move today. It was the stock of the day today for us. It opened at 18 and a half. Went to 23.19 at one point and closed 22 and a half, up 30% or $5.21 at 1.8 million. You can see that's the heaviest volume since back in June. And if we step back and look at the overall pattern, what a beautiful chart on this stock after breaking out in 2010. It's been stair-stepping its way choppily all the way up. Choppily, that's a good one. Anyway, consolidating mid 2011 and then running up to consolidate again, only to break out after 3 months of consolidation today with a thrust that could take it pretty quickly up towards the 26 range. That's our short-term target. Big day for fire. As you know, we've had that stock on our top 20 list for top 25 list for months earlier in the year. And if you take a look at the overall pattern, going back a couple of years, you'll see why. The stock acted great in 09, consolidated in 2010 for the most part, early 2011, and then started to move out. Here is a breakout, consolidation, surged, and you can see how last week it was poking new high territory, and today exploded for 936 or 26%, 5.6 million traded. Now, very difficult when you look at the long-term chart and you see that this is all-time high territory to try to gauge what would be a possible long-term target. Well, what I do first is I'll take a look at first of all, the angle. And even if I take the angle here, we're looking at potentially a very sharp increase from where we are right now. It takes the stock and eventually up, maybe double from where we are now. But let's just say for a short-term pattern, I'm looking at something that gets it into the mid to high 50s. Let's call it that. Back on the weekly chart for a moment. And if we take a measured move off of the wedge here and pull it back here, the length of the pattern usually added on to that would get us maybe to the mid 50s. KONG, significant move today. And take a look at where it got to and where it closed. Now, the important part about KONG is that it's formed a nice base since last August. Today popped 92 cents, or almost 22%, and closed not far off the high for the day, but underneath the resistance line, which is really closer to there. So it did back off that level and pull back. Now, the support we can look for potentially would be near the prior high that was just broken, around 5. So any pullback in that towards the 5 level may be an interesting intraday support. Over the next few days, if it does thrust further, we may be able to see this test that zone up here around 588. That would be my short-term target. Secondary target around 7. THLD, very strong momentum play. This gap, secondary gap, wedge, and then breakout, and then followed by this gap. It had a poor close yesterday, but today came back very nicely, up $1.02 on 20%, 16.5 million traded. That's pretty big volume. Not quite the 28 million the day before, but I'm looking for this stock to make it up from the test $8. CYH. Stepping back in this one, you'll see that a big downtrend was reversed when the stock took out this line over the course of trading in the last month, but slowly edged its way higher, and today popped with a thrust closing near the high for the day through the base pattern. And at this point, I can anticipate potentially a test of that zone right up in there as my next target area around 27.5. SBSA has been an interesting pattern, and although the falling channel or wedge here was broken today on big volume, I've yet to see this stock make it to my target, which is 7.5. So I think we're going to potentially see a swing on this one. Let's see if there's any follow through tomorrow. Important that it gets above today's high of 604. SSN, I wanted to point this out only because it's thrusted beautifully, taking out the base pattern and surge up to secondary resistance. Now, it could very well make it up to this secondary level up here, before it falls back. That's about 335. But between here and then, I think the stock could rest and consolidate before it sets its way up on another leg higher. So the target is 330 short term and long intermediate term about 4.5. Chiquita Brands came down, broke its declining top line and downtrend, and then based. Now, over the course of the last few weeks, you see it's edged up to resistance, backed off, retested support in the trend line, and then bounced and broke out today, jumping 76 cents or 8.25%. 1.1 million traded. That was the heaviest volume going back in about 3-4 months. And the highs up in December up around 10.5 for my immediate target, but should it get through there, I would look for 12.5. Aegean Marine Petroleum Network, ANW, after a big downturn here, down channel I should say, we saw it drop. Well, let's even go further back. You can see how this stock dropped all the way from the 30 range down into the low single digits. But this stock, which is involved with fuel for transportation, mostly the boating industry, the shipping industry, is formed the big head and shoulders base with the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder here. The declining tops line taken out, now lateral price support taken out, and then it thrusted today an additional 46 cents or 7% on 873,000 shares, which is, by the way, the biggest volume we've seen in months, all this year for that matter. And I'm thinking now we get an extension on this, the length of the base up here, all the way up to about 10. My intermediate target, short-term target, about 8. NBR, beautiful base pattern has been broken. Here, the pullback, and then today it pulled back in the morning to about 20, a little less than that, and then spiked up to 22.35 before backing off. Still up $1.42 or 7% today on 16.7 million. That's the biggest volume in months going back to November. So a clean breakout with volume. And at this point, I'd be looking for the stock to maybe make it up towards the short-term target about 24.5, 25, and the intermediate target about 27.5, 28. Herbalife had a significant move today after months of consolidation and double top in here. We exploded up through that area with the gap, breakaway gap, and closed very nicely at 435 or 7%, 5.25 million shares, the biggest volume since early December. And at this point, this is all-time high territory. As you can see, this long-term chart indicates to me that we should see at least 80 on an intermediate basis. MOTR Motricity. Well, the stock popped a couple weeks ago, and it's been consolidating. It appears that the little wedge that it formed here was broken out midday. But the problem with Motricity is it didn't close great. Still up 9 cents or 6.5%. 2.1 million traded. That's the best volume in a week. But I want to see a follow through and a takeout of the 175.85 zone, which could get this eventually up towards 330 on an intermediate basis. Short-term target 250. KEG, well, this junior oil and gas stock broke across key resistance today. It may very well be headed for a retest of the highs up around 19 3/4, 20s up there. That's my target. SGMO, Sangamo, well, I'm pointing this out because it's had such a nice run. Broke out, got up to the resistance, had a falling wedge, exploded for 3 days now, has moved up to my next target zone there, 6. So could see some pullback consolidation here, which would then lead to something around 7.5. KOG, my favorite junior, Bakken Region Oil, after this long consolidation, appears to have come out of it. It is now up against and is testing its all-time highs today. Matter of fact, it made a nominal new all-time high. If it continues this trend, we should see the stock get up towards 13. That's my target. And lastly is PKT, which spiked up early today, making new all-time highs as well, but gave back a big chunk of it by getting to 2090 and closing at 1931. Not a very good close, up only 27 cents today. But we'll see if there's any kind of follow-through and pay attention to the 17 3/4, 18 level as support. That's it for tonight. You guys have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow.